Want to hear how far woke ideology has gone in the classrooms? Well, teachers in the UK now have the right to ask students to call them MX or Mix instead of Mr, Mrs or Miss. Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson has said teachers can request that children call them by the gender-neutral honorific instead of traditional titles. Where are we heading to? Joining me now is Women's Forum Australia CEO Rachel Wong. Oh, look, Rachel, I mean, this to me is pure indoctrination. What on earth are kids being taught these days? No wonder they're so confused.
100%, Danica. And look, I'm quite surprised by this because I thought that the UK was meant to be leading us in common sense on this issue. But there is absolutely no place for gender ideology in the classroom. Children should be taught the facts about biological sex, not that men can be women or women can be men or they can be neither. And we've seen a very, very similar issue play out here in Australia with St Hilda's private school in Perth, where young girls were forced to call male teachers Miss and MX, making them feel terrified of misgendering and being accused of bigotry, and basically transgressing their boundaries in this way. And I think it's completely inappropriate. And like I said, very surprised that the UK government is suggesting this.
Oh, I completely agree. I just think it's absolutely appalling. And again, we're just treating this next generation, they're teaching them how to be confused. They're just teaching them all sorts of brainwashing nonsense. It's just ridiculous. Now, I want to keep on the UK because British schools, hospitals, leisure centres and cinemas will be told to ban trans women, aka biological men, from using single-sex areas, including bathrooms and changing rooms. The Equality and Human Rights Commission has rejected demands from campaigners to water down the rules, and instead the statutory guidance will also say that men can be excluded from single-sex sporting contests. Now, Rachel, I was quite shocked, to be honest, that the Equality Commission is going down this path because it's not the usual woke path these equality commissions go on. But I also think that this highlights just how far behind we are in Australia.
Absolutely. Look, the Human Rights Commission in the UK has been a lot better than Australia. There is just no comparison, really. Meanwhile, over here, our Australian Human Rights Commission and our Sex Discrimination Commissioner in particular doesn't even know what a woman is. It's basically intervening against women and against female-only spaces in courts and is saying that men can become women, sex is changeable, all that kind of thing. So like you say, we have a long, long way to go, but I'm so happy to see this from the Human Rights Commission in the UK.
Yeah, I agree. And as you mentioned just before, obviously there was that Supreme Court ruling earlier this year. The UK is slowly making strides, not 100% there, but they're way far ahead than we are here in Australia. We're so far behind the rest of the world. Now, look, I've got to ask you about this, Rachel. It seems singer Boy George is chucking a hissy fit. He's very upset by some of your tweets on X about giggle versus tickle, in support, of course, of the wonderful Giggle for Girls app founder Sal Grover. Now, you posted this tweet last week during the appeal saying, "This is the selfie Roxanne Tickle submitted to enter the Giggle app. According to Tickle's lawyers, the hairstyle and low-cut top should have been a dead giveaway to Sal Grover that this was a woman." But Boy George wasn't happy. He said Rachel was born pretty and hasn't. It made her full of herself, nasty bully, and that's just how your good points. God help you when gravity takes its revenge. Gee, Rachel, I tell you what, the left are just so nice and tolerant, aren't they?
Look, I had a giggle myself when I read that tweet. I was like, oh, thanks for the compliment, firstly. But look, Boy George has been lashing out at just anyone and everyone at the moment, I think in a bid to stay relevant, trying to use his elite status to intimidate and bully women in particular into silence on this issue. And, I think it's quite interesting because he's someone who's sort of, his brand is gender non-conforming and is someone who I guess appears as maybe more feminine or effeminate or whatever. And he's totally entitled to do that. And, Roxanne Tickle, in the same way, is totally entitled to wear V-neck tops and grow his hair out. But what he's not entitled to do is to force the rest of us to accept that he's a woman. And Boy George trying to say that should be the case, I think is ridiculous. And he can continue to insult women online, but we're not going to back down from this.
Nope, good on you. He can continue his hissy fit. That is absolutely fine. And good on you. Take it as a compliment that he was giving you about your looks there. I would absolutely take that. He's certainly correct.